Welcome back to the Lift Free and Diet Hard podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Coates. Join me along with industry leaders and friends on a quest to get more people through the gym door and eating and living healthier. Join me where evidence meets empathy while rejecting fitness industry fads and extremism. Let's begin. Ashley Hodge, honor to have you on, certified strength and conditioning coach, power lifter, and we were co-contributors to our friend Gareth Sapstead's book, The 100 Best Physique Workouts, which, well, I think that sold out a couple times on Amazon, so he's been doing really well with it. But it's great to have you on the show. I want to introduce you to everybody in my audience if they don't already know. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for having me on. It's an honor and a pleasure.
All right, I got a few topics, but you have a lot of content around glute training, and you have worked very closely for many years with our friend Brett Contreras, the glute guy. He's the OG. And let's ask some glute stuff. Is glute training as complicated as, quote, glute influencers make it out to be?
It's really not to be the just fitness itself is really not that complicated. I feel like there's just so much noise put out there that's just really unnecessary and that causes people to just hop on different trends and protocols and they're just not focusing on the basics. For glute training, specific exercises where we're focusing on our lower body, we always want to making sure that we're doing some type of squat lunge, we're doing some type of glute bridge hip thrust variation, we're doing some type of hinge deadlift variation and abduction in the frontal and transverse plane.
Okay.
So the variation of those exercises can really depend on what you personally enjoy, your fitness level and whatnot. And when it comes to just like the volume, is either people are doing too much or they're just not doing enough at all.
Okay.
It shows that we should be doing at least like 10 sets per muscle group. When following Brett's system and methodology, we're actually doing a 36 total sets a week for glutes. So that's going to include those movement patterns that I just mentioned. And I find what I learned from Brett was the rule of thirds. So around a 12 of those sets per week will be from a vertical hip extension. So like your squats, your lunges, your RDLs. Another 12 sets per week will be from your horizontal hip extension exercise, from like your hip thrusts, your back extension, your kickbacks. Then the last third, so the last 12 total sets will be from like your lateral glute exercises. So that would be like your hip abduction, machine seated hip abduction, lateral band walks, for example.
And I'm assuming that the overwhelming majority of this, the general rules of muscle building, glutes are not a unique or different muscle in that context. You still need to train them with sufficient intensity, which means got to get pretty close to failure. So I guess here's a big one. It has to be heavy enough to get near failure. Do you want to talk about loading? Because I mean, like, I'll talk about this after, but you lift some heavy weight, but I'm sure those like the big lifts. It's not all like the craziest two, three single rep maxes that you do in your training.
Exactly. Because as we know in research, you can train all rep ranges to achieve muscle hypertrophy. But what I found is a sweet spot with my in-person clients, in addition to my online clients, is leaving usually 2 to 3 reps left in the tank. Because again, I feel like people are going too hard or they're just not going hard enough. And you do want to be trained with high effort to achieve muscle hypertrophy. So in my own training as a power lifter and with my clients, we gauge intensity using RPE. So
Okay.
I'm always asking my clients, how many more reps could you have done if you didn't stop at X prescribed reps?
Okay. I like that high effort. I feel like the arguments over training volume, which is of course this big nebulous, uh, almost false dichotomy that the fitness industry presents, and it's usually the hypertrophy bros. And I recently had Dr. Eric Helms on to kind of parse out the truth from the myth and the absolute claims that this crowd makes. But yeah, proximity to failure is probably the most important thing. And I think I like the fact that you mentioned that you train people in person because one of the things I am frustrated by is I think there's a lot of influencers who brand around certain topics, and hypertrophy is one of them, and glute hypertrophy is just one of those narrower things. But I can tell when they say things that I don't think they train real people. I'm not sure that they ever did. So while certain exercises work pretty well for, heavy to near failure of reps, 4 to 6 rep range, but that doesn't work for everything for glute training, does it? Can you explain practically, functionally, for the person lifting, for the coach, some of the practical rep ranges in different exercises in different populations you're training?
Oh, definitely. So For example, barbell hip thrust or any type of hip thrust, heavy hip thrust, Smith machine, if it's machine hip thrust, I'd say from 3 to 8 rep range. I would use that if we're going pretty heavy. I also like using pyramid rep scheme sets. And I feel like it's fun for the client because they're like, okay, I don't have to, like, I can get to go down in reps, so you don't have to go up in weight, but like, okay, this is less reps. So it's like
Mm.
psychologically, like, okay, this is better. And usually, so the typically the first exercises, which where you're most fresh, is where we want to make sure we're pushing that with high effort. So we want to be leaving about 2, 3 reps left in the tank. And then, like I mentioned, as far as that template with those 4 movement patterns, so maybe you have, let's say, a pendulum squat. So maybe rep
Mm.
range 3 sets of 8 to 12, just to kind of give you an example.
Mm.
If we got kickbacks, I like to keep that a little bit more higher rep range and really focusing on mind muscle connection. You don't want to load those too heavy. I personally don't, prescribe sets of 8 for kickbacks because I feel like a lot of people a little too heavy, then they start to use too much momentum, and then they're hyperextending, and they're like, I feel in my low back, down in my glutes. So I like to keep the weight lower so that way they can really focus on the mind muscle connection. And so I would say 12 to 20 reps.
Okay.
And then any for type of abduction, I would do the same 12 to 20 reps. And I feel like too, a lot of practitioners or influencers out there, you can tell they don't know what they're doing because they're prescribing so many sets. And it's like, everyone doesn't recover the same. And it's like, are you really like individualizing that program to the person? Because they say you only assign 10 sets per muscle group, but sometimes a lot of people can't recover enough of that. So I have clients where I might even prescribe them 1 to 2 hard sets. And
Mm.
again, we get the most benefit out of that first working set. So I would rather them push it hard. And then if they feel too beat up, then we'll stop right there. And then maybe we'll just do 4 sets for the day, just for those movement patterns. And that's it.
And I guess it also depends on the type of movement as well, because certain exercises, positions are more can produce more or less soreness or
Correct.
fatigue. Do you want
Exactly.
to explain why? Can you break that down? Like why, let's say for example, why would someone probably be able to tolerate maybe more sets of seated hip abductions or even a hip thrusting motion, glute bridging motion versus a squat or an RDL?
Well, because I feel like with a squat or RDL, that's going to hit you more harder in the stress position versus the hip thrust. It hits you more in the squeeze position, so the shorter range of motion. So I don't feel like you get as beat up. And whereas squats, deadlifts, lunges, those are going to be very taxing. I know for myself, like dumbbell walking lunges, I usually would do like stick to 1 or 2 sets because those just rock me. They're brutal. And so, that's why again, it depends on the exercise. So when I'll see a sample programming of 8 sets of walking lunges. There's no way. You're lying. No.
Or you're not training with anywhere near sufficient enough load or intensity. And this is where I said false dichotomy earlier between the low and the high volume crowd. Both sides tend to sort of straw man or misrepresent the position of the other side.
Yeah.
And even though I traditionally thought of myself as someone who is trained with more volume across weeks, but I even said on the episode with Eric, I built a lot of muscle in my earlier days, and I would love to hear your thoughts after on training age and experience. Where I would, and I love you said pyramids. I've done tons of ascending pyramids. You'll see influencer shit all over it. It's like for the first motion, warm it up, warm it up, warm it up, and then you got a couple of heavier sets. But that's exactly what I would do with a lot of things. And I remember when I was younger, I might do one top set that was a hard set, and I grew phenomenally well.
And maybe people will be like, you can't grow muscle. That's not enough because they can have this all or nothing mindset. And they're like, well, I have to be doing like 48 sets for it to like be doing something for it to matter. It's like
Mm,
that's not the case. Like, how
mm,
are you really be pushing your sets very hard? Like it's going to lead to overtraining, to injuries.
mm. So, can you break it down where training age matters and how you might program and progress someone who's walking in fairly new versus someone who's, I mean, you are a competitive power lifter, right? You definitely do. I'm presuming that you deal with physique athletes as well, or you certainly in the space with them.
No, I would definitely say 100% my clientele are just general population clients.
Oh, wonderful. Well,
Mhm.
so you're in the orbit of because well, Brett, who we've alluded to, Brett trains a lot of physique athletes. So,
Exactly.
but what would you say is the difference between the approaches for those two camps?
Well, Gen Pop clients, they come in, they want to look better, they want to look better naked, they want to feel better, they want to be feel stronger, they want to build confidence, they want to be able to play with their kids, they want to be able to keep traveling as they get older. Um, their why is a lot different from competitors. And growing up, I grew up overweight, and I had my own weight loss journey. I lost about 60 pounds I'd say over 15, 17 years ago with my first personal trainer. And so I get it. I can speak to the Gen Pop client of the constant cycling and binging, and listening to all the noise, not knowing what to do, doing too much, not doing enough, and just not hiring a professional to teach me the basics and to focus on getting stronger over time, which is progressive overload, understanding progressive overload, what that looks like, tracking my training, again, sticking with the basics, eating enough food, making sure I'm focusing on staying hydrated, on managing my stress level. So I feel like those are still aspects that even competitive athletes deal with, but I feel like with Gen Pop clients, they come in thinking like I'll have a fat loss client. Okay, I want to lose 15 pounds. And, I'm asking about, okay, their training history or current training history, their nutrition, and, they're drinking 10 to 20 drinks per week currently. They have never strength trained. They might go to Pilates class. So extreme beginner. And usually when I have my clients come in, we're doing a movement assessment. I need to see how they're moving. And then I would typically prescribe, as a beginner, body weight, maybe dumbbell. But we're gonna be doing a lot of like assisted, maybe like a braced dumbbell reverse lunge. Maybe we'll lean on machines. I train out of two different gyms. So one gym, we have free weights, we have a cable column, but no machines. And then at my other gym that I train my clients out of, we have a plethora of equipment and machines. So it's nice to be able to give like my beginner clients the confidence of using machines so that way they feel more stable and confident in the movement and can really focus on the muscle group that they're targeting.
Well, I love adding stability, whether it's handhold, so something like holding a rack. I've got these handles on my rack in my home gym where you hold it, dumbbell in the other hand, single leg Romanian deadlift. You can all, now, of course, what's the limitation there? Ability to grip and load, right? That's a constraint. But how can you get around that? Kickstand Romanian deadlift. Because I've only got one client I've worked with in the last little while. No, sorry, two, who have the skill and balance, which is a thing that you work on. As, you can develop that skill if it matters to you. But your constraint is going to be stability in that. So what do? You put your other foot down a little bit, kickstand it, and all of a sudden you've got weight in both hands. So I find that one works really well. It's a good way to teach. One thing I want to make sure we hit on before I am going back a little bit is one of the big things about big deadlifting and big squatting motions is there's so much system fatigue. There's so much axial fatigue, lower back's fatiguing.
Definitely.
So that's a major constraint on just the sheer volume and load that we can do across sets too. Whereas seated hip abduction, not really a big deal, right?
Exactly, exactly. So in my clients training, so like when I see my in-person clients, I have a package where they get 8 sessions per month. So I see them twice per week over the 4 week block. And one day we'll focus on a compound squat, knee dominant lunge movement. And then on the second day, it'll be more of a isolation knee dominant movement. So that way I want to manage that fatigue. And even with the compound squat movement, it might not necessarily be a barbell squat. And I always tell my clients, you don't have to be using a barbell to achieve muscle hypertrophy. It's not the, creme de la creme, because everyone body's responds differently. And then again, that's, where the personal training comes in to individualize the actual exercise selection to that client. It's great because now most people, if they are strength training, they may be doing like a bro split. So, maybe they'll be doing like, quads one day with hamstrings and calves, and they'll have like a chest day. And so to just train that muscle group once per week versus in my training, when I train my clients in person, we do full body training. So now they get to
Mm.
train those muscle movement patterns twice per week instead of once per week. And then in addition to that, we're managing fatigue. So we're not hitting a barbell squat or doing a barbell squat one day and then a reverse lunge or like a barbell reverse lunge or what may have you on the second day.
Well, you and I have the exact same approach with the same population. So let's take it a little bit more granular. You've got that, general lifestyle client who wants to be strong. They're not a physique athlete. They've got 2 days a week to work out to fit in their busy lives, but they've said to you, "Hey, I want to also grow my glutes." So what does that look like for you?
We're hip thrusting. Ideally, I would like, love my clients to come in 3 days a week so we could be hip thrusting 3 times a week, but we hip thrust on
Mhm.
both days. And again, I'm still using the same methodology where we're going to have a heavier hip thrust day, and then we're going to have a lighter hip thrust day where we're focused on that mind muscle connection because hypertrophy can be shown in with progressive overload with mind muscle connection. So we do both. And so for heavy hip thrust, again, depending on the modality that we have available to our use, like either it's going to be with a barbell, a Smith machine. Maybe we'll be doing a pyramid sets. I also like to rotate the focus in a sense. So we're not doing barbell hip thrust month after month after month because again, you have to still manage that fatigue. Maybe we'll spend 2 to 3 blocks building up to, maybe we'll start with a set of 5 for the first block, then a set of 3, and then maybe we'll do a single, working up to just one. And I have few clients where we'll focus on singles. Majority, I would say the lowest, we're probably doing like triples, if anything. Because again, I want to make sure I'm keeping my clients safe. And these are general population clients, they have 9 to 5, other things to do, and I want to make sure that they can come back into their next strength session feeling strong.
A quick break from this episode to shout out RP Strength and the RP Hypertrophy app. I have a big confession. I've never used a coach before. I've always auto-regulated my training for decades. But I've known Dr. Mike Israetel and Nick Shaw, the founders of RP, for years, and I'll get behind anything they create, including years of reading their books, consuming their media, attending their seminars, and having them as guests on the show. And I've been using the RP Hypertrophy app now for several months. And several things have happened. It forced me to make smaller and more gradual but better increases in weight volume across time, like putting 5-pound plates on each side of a leg press. Like, who does that? Never before. Only 45s. It cut out the junk volume. It made my workouts faster and more efficient. I show up with a plan. I didn't have to think about what to do. I feel more accountable having a log my progress. And I don't skip things because I don't feel like it. If hiring a one-on-one coach isn't for you, using the RP Hypertrophy app is the next best thing to manage your gains and to take the guesswork out of your program. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it risk-free, and if you don't like it, they'll give you your money back. And I've also got you a $50 US dollar discount, so go to rpstrength.com/coats and use the code COATSRP, or go to the link below in the show notes. That's rpstrength.com/coats and use the code COATSRP.
Okay. So you mentioned the different ways that you do it, and I would love to hear your thoughts, because this is again where one of the criticisms I have for coaches who haven't trained in person or it's been a really long time is they'll assign exercises, but they have no concept of what functionally the clients A have to use, or B, the challenge with setting something up. So barbell hip thrusts. I mean, I remember when Brett was writing this stuff for T Nation, and all of a sudden we started training as trainers in the gym. Now, guess who would do the setup? Me, the trainer, right? I'm doing all the work, right? There's some work there. But let's say again, you've got that busy person and it's a busy gym. Does a barbell hip thrust actually make sense for everybody? And what are some of the other things you mentioned? A Smith machine.
Oh, so and I always tell my client, there's no best exercise. It's the best exercise, the one that is come down to personal preference, and whatever modality is better. Because I'll have followers always ask me like, oh, is it better to use the Smith machine or the barbell or vice versa? No, it's really whatever works best for you and whatever feels best to you and what is available at that time, at your gym. So I'm fortunate at both of my gym locations. We have Brett's thruster. And so it's an easy setup. And we also have his thruster plate. So that makes it really easy to roll the bar over my clients' hips. But we also have a Smith machine as well. We do have a machine hip thrust that I'll use for my clients who feel a little bit more intimidated with the barbell hip thrust. We'll do knee banded variations. I mean, we do it all. We do pauses, we do pulses, we do 1 1/4, we do a triple pulses. So I always tell my clients like don't feel like because I also will do semi-private where I'll have max up to 3 people. So it's great because now they can see what other people are lifting and what other variations they're doing.
Mm.
And I'm always remind my clients like there is no best. Like maybe because you're not doing like a barbell hip thrust, you're still hip thrusting. You're doing one quarter hip thrusts. Those are brutal and roast your glutes.
Mm.
And you're still, as long as you're training with high effort, you're going to build your glutes.
Good. And I like you keep coming back to high effort. The gym I contract out of, shout out to Evolve Strength South Common. We just moved it from the old Evolve South location, which is sort of an old warehouse gym, more strength performance centric. But we always had a glute drive, or at least for a long time, we've had a glute drive in the old location. The glute drive came with us. I love it. I have a glute drive in my basement. That was fun to get down there. But simple and easy setup. I mean, every once in a while, a client's just intimidated by it and they just want nothing to do with it. Fine, all right. Getting them to do a barbell hip thrust probably isn't going to work either. Single leg hip thrusts actually work really well. I love them. But, and then I think we got a couple of, I want to shout them out, Glute Builder. They're like the little Smith machine hip thrust machines, and those are actually pretty effective too. But I'm lucky. I work in a gym that has a lot of this stuff, but I'm noticing more and more of the commercial gym spaces in any of the serious lifter gyms, they have hip thrust machines of some sort now. So I feel more comfortable assigning this in programs for the clients that I have online or my clients who work out independently on top of with me in person.
I 1,000% agree with you, Andrew. I've been seeing an explosion of glute equipment and bigger box gyms. The Booty Builder, the Glute Builder, BC Strength. It's been so nice because like I'm a fan of all of them. They are so smooth, so comfortable, and just again, it's a great exercise, especially for someone who's new and might feel a little bit intimidated. And I feel like especially like breast equipment, like they're meant for all shapes and sizes. Like it's so nice. Someone I have a 14 client or a 6'4" male client who I'm training, I can train them using the same equipment.
Now, when I first started setting up my home gym, I did order one of Brett's. It's just the foam plyo box bench, and I think it's like a 12-inch by
Oh,
16 inch. And honestly, the amount of use I got out of that thing for hip thrusting until I got my glute drive, and I use it as my step up bench. Honestly, that thing was worth the investment despite the shipping costs. Brett,
okay,
no, I mean that's fair. It's huge,
because
right?
you're based in Canada.
I'm in Canada, right? So
Mm.
getting fitness equipment shipped here, that's always fun. Okay, now, what about you mentioned bands, the bands and body weight stuff, the drills. Can we realistically train this stuff hard enough to get close to failure, that, 2 to 3 reps? Or is a lot of the stuff we're seeing, the influencer stuff, just simply not difficult enough? Where do you draw the line that people, in order to use these kind of drills, to make them work?
So within breast glute training system, so not only like do we have a day where we focus on heavy hip thrust, we'll have another day where it's going to be a little bit lighter focus on hip thrust. We're focusing on our lockouts. So
Mm.
those variations could include like bar plus band, pulses, 1 1/4, hip banded, knee banded. So again, it's lighter, so you can really focus on squeezing your glutes because I'm sure as you notice, when people are loading up those hip thrusts really heavy with barbell or Smith machine, towards like either the end of their set or in the third set, they're fatigued and they're not able to lock out fully. I love having a second day focus on lockout work, and that's where I feel like band work could be very beneficial. And I don't know if you've done knee banded, hip thrust. Like my God, 3 sets of 20, your glutes are gonna be roasted. But it's so nice because you can really focus on getting that full range of motion, get that nice squeeze at the top, squeezing your glutes.
I guess despite the fact this stuff's nasty, due to the nature of it, it's still not necessarily as systemically fatiguing. Yes, every once in a while you'll get someone who will make a claim that uh, I had Brad Schoenfeld on. He sort of like tease this out, but they'll make a claim that I'll give an example that I once saw online, and I'm like, this is nonsense. Somebody had said that one set of leg extensions on a machine was more fatiguing than I believe 10 heavy single squats. And I'm like, I don't know if this person has ever coached anybody in real life. I mean, if anybody listening sees your face, this should tell you all. But I'm just
I'm
like,
like, what?
you motherfuckers don't actually understand fatigue or anything at all. Like, holy shit. Anyway, but I do find that we get some camps that they take this idea, like higher rep training to near failure. Absolutely. Is it fatiguing? Yes. Is it fatiguing in a different way than 1 rep maxes? Yes. But I mean, this is not as systemically as joint. And that's another thing too that I find this discussion misses is the joint stress. And I alluded to that earlier with, a lot of heavy squatting, a lot of heavy deadlifting. You build up a tolerance to this. I mean, the powerlifters and strongman women competitors, if you look at bone scans of them, they have dense bones, right? And the injury rates, well, in training are actually quite low. In competition, they get a bit higher. And someone does it long enough, under enough stresses, sure, they tend to have some injuries. But even still, your thoughts?
So another typical like common question is I'll get asked, okay, well, how many days per week should we train our glutes? Now, a default response could be you can typically train your glutes 2, even up to 6 times per week. And people think like 6 times, like I thought you're trying to manage fatigue. And it's like, okay, but if you're being conscious about your exercise selection and you're not only doing heavy hip thrusts for those 6 days, but you're sprinkling in knee banded, single leg, hip banded, so lighter, abduction work, that's going to be able, if you choose, if you want to train more frequently, but 3 is honestly the best choice for the majority of people.
A quick sponsor break for my current aspiring coach listeners. This episode is brought to you by Train Heroic. If you know me, you know I only work with sponsors I use personally and where I know the people behind the product. Train Heroic is the best online coaching software in the industry. Not only is it a great platform for one-on-one coaching, it's fantastic for group coaching and selling standalone programs. Train Heroic is used by some of my trusted friends, so I switched my online group program here, and my members love it, raving about its ease of use. Having a dedicated app means far greater reliability for my clients and has been by far my best experience with any online coaching software. Train Heroic is a proven and stable industry leader, meaning it isn't going to suddenly disappear. One of the biggest risks in choosing an online coaching software. When you start a free trial today, you'll get 90 days free to experience why I love and trust this platform. You'll get full support from their team, who've been a joy for me to work with. And I trust Train Heroic and the people behind it. Here's how to activate your free 90-day trial. It's 2 important steps. Number 1, go to www.trainheroic.com/liftfree. Step 2, reply to the email you get. It should be trials@trainheroic.com, and let them know I sent you, or go to the links in the show notes.
Amazing. Now, you also had a note on your social media. There's a post and it say you're training really heavy deadlifts or hip thrusts, and someone says they can't feel their glutes much. Is that a problem?
Yes, like it's a problem. Okay, a problem as in that's not the big deal.
Okay.
It's as you're lifting, it's totally natural and common to feel your quads, your hamstrings. Now, again, you looking at your form, like, are you really locking, not coming to full hip extension? Are you really locking out? Because sometimes people are like, they'll like to compensate and just try to use anything to fully lock out. But it's not a big deal if you do not feel your glutes. It's such a common question. And then I feel like that's what holds people back and are leaving gains on the table. And especially like for my clients who are like, I want to build a big butt, huge, juicy butt. It's like, well, why are you choosing to not push the load because you can't feel your glutes? And that's why it's important to sprinkle on those other days like lockout work, band work, you're focused on single leg work. So lighter mind muscle connection exercises. So that way you are able to feel your glutes. So again, you're focused on that progressive overload with your compound lift, hip thrusting. And then you're also focusing on the mind muscle connection with your isolation glute exercises.
I mean, it makes sense in the days where I've done heavier lifting, let's say big compound lifts. And I mean, outside of the hip thrusting, I mean, Romanian deadlift, squatting stuff, all compound lifts. I find that it just feels heavy. And it's not like, ooh, I feel this localized place that's burning. Now, you go do 8 to 10 reps of lunges, deep lunges. Guess what? You'll feel muscles, okay? You also feel some system stuff. But you're doing a 3-rep max squat. I've never in my life felt my quads the same way as a set of 12 to failure on a leg extension. It's different. So I'm not super worried about it. But if I'm coaching people, I'm looking for form. Is there a place, is there anything you look for to say, okay, no, it's just heavy, you're not supposed to feel it, versus, okay, I actually think that there's a form issue here. There's actually, you should probably feel this more. How do you know the difference?
So focusing on their lockout. So again, I'm so fortunate we have Brett's thruster machine, and so that way I can easily see like we can standardize the lockout, and I can tell like when they're just kind of um using their low back, and it's just like they're arching a lot, and you can just tell like they're not fully squeezing their glutes. Or you can tell like they're just trying to hyperextend and try to get the bar up too high, and I'm just like just drop the low like it's too heavy. And also too, what like when I have my online clients, I'll have them fit like so. Ideally, because sometimes with online, I try to mimic it as far as in person. Like I want to see every single set. So if I have all three sets, I'm like, now I can take a screenshot of your lockout from the first set to the last set and then compare. I'm like, well, look at that. You were able to lock out, with the first set. So maybe we just stick with two sets and then we back off in the third set. Or maybe they'll send me a video of their warm-up set and then we get to the working set and then they're not fully locked out. And I was like, okay, well, we need to drop the weight. So that's a really good identifier. And I'll do that too as well for like my in-person clients. Like I'll film them and I'll film like their warm-up set and then film the working set. And I can show them like side by side, like, okay, just so you can see. Because sometimes people are like, oh, I thought I was locking out. And then again, that's where taking video of yourself is so key. And in my own training, like when I first started, working with my personal trainer, like I had no qualms about like filming myself. I didn't feel shy or weird because I'm like, I want to make sure I'm using the proper form technique. And the only way to do that is if I film myself and I can watch it and then I'll make improvements from there.
I'm good with filming too. So any of my online clients, I want to see how they're moving, especially on it. Like there's smaller exercises that they're so routine. I know they're good at them. I don't need video, but the big compounds, I want to see the video. And I've always like I know sometimes people get this rhetoric about like no filming in gyms. Now, I think there's an etiquette to it, but at the same time, we have to live in the real world now. A lot of people actually do have online coaches. People use their social media, and I've got no problem with it as long as it's not in everybody else's way. Tripods drive me crazy. If the tripod's out in some, another piece of equipment, that's different. But filming, grab a friend, film it for you real quick. It's all good.
And I just want to add another point
Mm.
too when it comes to just looking at my clients' lockouts and just as far as like how do you kind of gauge and ascertain. So another new protocol is incorporating lengthened partials. And it's okay if my client isn't fully locking out and they're just kind of focusing on that stretch position because we're seeing more growing research on doing lengthened partials. And so again, I think it's just a great approach to incorporate all
Mm.
types of protocols. Again, to just change it up because I know like Brett has prescribed a lot of like lengthened partials for hip thrusts, for deadlifts. And there it's just like another tool to use for your toolbox. Not a must-have at all. But I just want to say, it's not like a black or white of like, if you're not fully locking out, then it doesn't count. If your attention is on doing length and partial, that's, a different case. But I just wanted to point that out there too.
No, I appreciate the thoroughness. Now, we've danced around this a bunch, but the in-person coaching, and I want, especially for all the enthusiast listeners, I definitely want these to be very valuable to everybody, but I still think there's something in here. I've talked to a lot of online coaches only over the last several years, and I feel like I'm going to be harsh on the business guru mentorship side of stuff. And I've got friends in that space. I'm going to talk about them. I'm talking about the more predatory ones that never really coach people in person in the first place. But I feel like there was this worship at the altar of scale. I feel like there was this push that, in order to graduate in your career, you're supposed to leave the gym floor. You're supposed to go online. You're supposed to grow out of this. And first of all, if you look around, there are lots of brilliant coaches who are still coaching people in person. You're doing it. Brett has, throughout his entire career, continued to work with people in person. There's a long list of people. I'll shout out some other names: Dean Somerset, Tony Gentilcore, Lee Boyce, Luca Hocevar. There's a lot, right? But I've talked to a lot of coaches, and I think they're starting to realize, and I'm trying to push them, go back and do some in person. There's a whole bunch of reasons. So why do you still coach in person, even though you also have online?
I'm a practitioner at heart. I love to see people bodies in person. I love to troubleshoot right on the spot. Someone's gonna come in like, oh, Ashley, my knee's hurting, or my low back's hurting. And then, okay, now we need to find substitute, so that way they're still getting a good workout and they still feel good and they're not feeling like, oh, well, I can't do anything. And now I don't feel successful. Like I want my clients to feel successful and to have the tools in case, again, like their low back is feeling beat up. So maybe we're not going to do heavy back squats. Maybe we'll focus on like some higher rep leg extensions, for example. And again, you have to communicate with your clients, like, how does that feel and whatnot. But you don't really truly get that from in person. I must say from online clients. or online training, I should say. Because one, if you're not a good communicator and you don't set up that environment to have your client tell you like when there's something wrong, because again, you can't see them. Because the blessing of online coaching is that they can train whatever they want to, wherever they want to. But then I feel like the curse of that is like, okay, it's up to them to actually show up, up to them to actually film, to send it to you, to communicate with you, like what's going on. Whereas in person, you're getting feedback right away.
Good point. I think the online clients and online training is not going away. There was a bit of a bubble. It did pop to a degree. COVID certainly helped with that. And I think in an ever digitizing, systemizing, AI-based world, I think people are seeking real human connection. My online clients, they value independence. They generally are experienced and self-motivated. Online can be an important point of accountability, but they really do like the structure and the trust of having you there to troubleshoot, even though it's reactive and asynchronous. With the in-person training, what about for you? I mean, there's the benefit that the clients come into us, but I think about this all the time. How does it better for you, the person, and we can do personally in your life and professionally for your career?
Mm. I mean, just meeting all types of walks of life, and in different stages. I like again, like I mentioned in the beginning, like I love helping people. I used to be that client, and so I get it. I've have so many great reviews from Google and Yelp, from clients who just always repeat like Ashley makes me feel so comfortable, and it's a safe and empowering environment. I know that you got my back, and my methodology with my business is I want every client to know and feel like they're the only client. And that's always my intention. So like I make sure I don't have a huge workload of clients because I want to make sure I'm giving personal attention to every single person and making sure like they're getting a personalized program and that they're feeling heard and seen. And so it fills my cup of like that's my ultimate passion, and work that I want to be doing. Like I want to help people get stronger. Because I know what it felt like to feel weak and to go through this cycle and not knowing what to do. And now I'm providing like that structure, that this template to people, and keeping it simple. Because I have my in-person and online clients that will be sending me DMs like, Ashley, I saw this on this person's Instagram. Is this true? Or what is this is this better exercise? And it's funny how like sometimes the influencer will be saying the same thing I'm saying, and people just have to hear things 10 times from 10
Mhm.
different people to find like, oh, okay, now I believe you. But I love it. It fills my cup. When I see a client like, hit a new PR, like I'm squeezing my glutes, like I'm just jumping for joy, because I see like the light bulb of like, I cannot believe I did it. And it's like they always say like you created that belief in me because I wouldn't have done this without you. I hear that all of the time. Oh, I would never have chose this load to use. I would have never done this exercise. Like she's 56, I had a 6-year-old client post-menopause, and she never did barbell squats. She said she was extremely intimidated. She would just stick with machine squats. We worked her up to 145 for a triple, clean, like her form, beautiful. And of course, we didn't jump her to barbell squats. I met her where she was at. We on one day we did some leg extensions, another day we did goblet box squats. Then we eliminated the box, and then we did just full range of motion of goblet squats. Then the third block, we incorporated the barbell. We started with like the trainer bar, and then we graduated her to the pull bar. So, it was steps to it. But again, people are going either doing too much or too little. And it's like, I love providing that structure. I like to say I'm a type A hippie because I'm very easygoing, but I love structure. And again, I just think people just make fitness and nutrition so much more complicated than it needs to be. And I just keep it simple. And I love using myself as example, because I'm like, I'm a human being, like I'm not a robot, but like, yes, I go to bed, I wake up at the same time. I make sure I'm being consistent with my nutrition. I meditate every morning. I believe I have strong self-belief. Like I work at those things consciously. I can't just wake up and think like, okay, I'm just roll into the gym and I'll figure it out. It's like, no, like you need to pay attention. I always tell my clients when you're coming into our strength training session, you're coming in for war. So I need you to be fed. I need to make sure that you're well slept because if you knew it was a war tomorrow, are you going to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning? No, you're going to get some sleep.
Mhm. What does it do for your social interaction. This is a big one for me, I think, with in-person training that you miss with online.
I'm a huge extrovert. I love people. I get energized from being around people. I love teaching people. I love talking. I love listening. I definitely have gotten the feedback that like I should be a therapist. And shout out to Precision Nutrition and their training and understand like motivational interviewing question because I feel like, and I did this too. When I first came out as a trainer, like I was barking orders, like, okay, you need to be doing this. And I make my now more like client focus. It's like, okay, what's your next step? And I'm your co-pilot. I'm just helping you get to your destination. So socially, I love it. Yeah, during COVID, it was hard times. But I'm fortunate because I already had my online business up and running prior to COVID, so it was a smooth transition. But that's why I don't want to stop in-person training. I just turned 39. Um, and this is my ninth year running my business full time as an entrepreneur. I have no plans on slowing down. I want to continue with in-person training. I love doing online coaching. It's a great supplemental income, but I feel like my bread and butter is in person because people want to see you again for the social aspect, for learning aspect. So I think there's a huge benefit, and it's a loss for trainers who run to just do online coaching and not take the step to do in person. And I feel like I am glad with my journey because, like I said, I started part-time. I was doing group classes and then I transitioned to working at Lifetime Fitness as a personal trainer. So I really got to, again, learn boots on the ground, how to run a business because they will teach you, step by step. And then again, you start, again, learn from other aspects when you go to seminars, to conferences, internships.
To my coach listeners, I have a little something of value for you, a $1,500 value seminar for just $19, but let me explain the context first. Endorsing people I know and trust is everything. My friend, Dr. Sean Pastuch, is the founder of Active Life. Sean and I have presented at fitness conferences together, and we share a philosophy on helping coaches serve their clients better and want caring professionals to stay in a fulfilling career they love. Sean and Active Life have something of value for you. If you're a fitness coach who works with clients who have pain and movement limitations, and isn't that almost every client, and you feel like you're guessing at solutions instead of following a system, Active Life's professional biomechanics assessment workshop will be of value to you. It's a 2-day live online workshop where you'll learn the foundational principles behind assessment, load management, and how to actually help clients move and feel better. This used to be a $1,500 seminar that people would fly in to attend. Right now, it's just $19. And for listeners of the show, the CEU upgrade worth $100 is completely free. Just use the code COATS at checkout. Go to the link in the description to grab your spot. Again, use the code COATS at checkout.
There's a lot there. Got a few more questions, but I'm going to point out something. I love it. I think I've said this on other media that the business guru Grift, what they're selling to, and I think all too often it's more online influencer types, sometimes competitor types who never really came through as personal trainers. Or maybe it's some of the personal trainers who just don't want to work very much, but they're promised this, we'll teach you how to have high ticket, offerings, but we'll systemize and automate everything in the business. So you actually don't have to work very much. And some of them will just end up being full-time content creators. And that model, to be able to charge a lot of money for low effort, it is a dead model. No matter what the gurus tell you, it's a dead model. It will die and there's just no sustaining it. There are a few things that will work. One, most of us have a higher relationship online coaching business, one-to-one. Most of us do, right? The right kind of clients, voice video messaging, just a lot of communication, and they know that they can trust to get a hold of you when they need it. You're pretty prompt in your responsiveness. You'll develop a clientele that just wants to work with you. That works really well. I have, and Brett is one of the OGs with this, a lower cost group-based programming model. Those will work really well. It still probably helps a lot if you have a high relationship. There's an aspect of it, let's call it a parasocial relationship where, you may have a bigger presence on social media. Brett is a great example of this. And people self-select to the expertise, the personality, various aspects about it. The programming is really solid. The community is amazing. The culture is great. And you could have that. And oftentimes, another good example, one of my sponsors, so we got RP Strength, Dr. Mike Israel, big presence. I actually just released an episode with him. Yours will come after. And, there's a lot of video-based media, but RP Strength, hypertrophy apps, or other stuff. This stuff is very low cost and very good, right? And so this is another thing we're going to see in the industry is low cost, I mean, AI-based or even free coaching and training stuff. People are using Chat GPT for this sort of thing. So for online trainers to think that you're going to be able to do the bare minimum and charge an exorbitant amount of money for something that apps and low-cost group-based coaching programs are going to do better. And quite frankly, oftentimes there's better communities and better support from that than what the high-ticket coaches think they're going to do. Listen, it's a fairy tale and it's a grift. It's a dead model. And if you're looking at business gurus who are going to sell you this bullshit, they're going to take a lot of your money and you're going to feel worse after all. So that's a little diatribe I wanted. Now, what's your step count like when you're training in person?
That's a good question. I say it would range from 12 to 18,000. So one of the gyms that I train out of is actually a 7-minute walk from my house, which is where I'm going to be training at clients training today. So I choose to walk, and I live in San Diego, so
Beautiful
um
weather.
beautiful weather. And I'm just soaking. So yeah, I take advantage of it. And then I was I so I was training 7 days a week, and then again, like as a full-time entrepreneur, business owner, like I'm going to work and I'm willing to work. I always had that work ethic, that grit to do what I need to do. But as I'm not like training 10 clients per day, like my workload fluctuates. Um, but I definitely do get a good amount of steps in.
Good. How do you believe? I should be careful how I frame this because it's a leading question. Do you believe that in-person training through word of mouth, local relationship is more enduring, more sustainable than online when compared directly?
So just based on my stats, 90% of my leads come from Instagram. I
Okay.
am so fortunate that like I've been consistent with my posting. I'm not an avid, like I need to post 2, 3 times a day or even once a week. I post content when it feels called to me because I only want to post like amazing content. So I don't make that like my bread and butter, but I just feel like because I have been so consistent and I do still show up like in my stories, I'm very responsive like in my DMs. Majority of my clientele will come from Instagram, and I always get the feedback, when we're chatting on our intro calls, they're like, wow, like, you sound and you're saying the same things that you say on social media. I'm like, yeah, I'm an authentic person. Like I'm always going to be unapologetically me, and show up the same person I am online. It's the same person I am in person. I actually had someone recognize me a couple days ago here in San Diego, and they're like, "Oh my God, like you look exactly the same in person as online." And she's like, "Some of these influencers, they look totally different in person," which I'm like, "That's crazy." So
Mm.
that was a big compliment in that aspect.
Now, filtering that through the fact that you have a objectively large social media and you also have a strong brand position. Here's another little thing for the coaches, okay, and the people listening. Um, and I'm sorry, a lot of the coaches listening will probably have stuff like this in your bio, but the I help 39 to 41-year-old women with 2.2 children, single working moms. That's not a brand. It's not. It's an elevator pitch.
Mhm.
And unless your media clearly differentiates you as owning area of expertise. So let me give you a list. I mean, Brett obviously is the glute guy, and I find the copycat characters over the years that have tried to like replicate that sort of funny. But you also verifiably, have a strong brand position around glute training, right? If you look at my friend Brianna Battles, pregnancy and postpartum athleticism, she's awesome. She absolutely owns that space. My buddy Luca Hocevar, athlete for life, amongst other things. I mentioned Dean Somerset earlier. Dean is definitely owns a really strong brand position in injury, rehab, a lot of mobility stuff. And I can go on and on with this list of, and again, a lot of these people are the known authorities in the industry, right? RP Strength, Mike Israel, Nick Shaw, my sponsors. They own the word hypertrophy, right? They really have been, they're the OG in that space. And they deliberately chose that word because it's sort of complicated. Not everybody understands what it means because they want to self-select that community. There's an intentionality here. I do worry that the trainer who's got a small social media following, who doesn't own a strong, true brand position, and the nature of changing social media, do you think they can rely on Instagram to drive leads into online coaching?
So those type of trainers, if you're not in a big box gym and as a personal trainer, that's your first step. Like any trainer that I've had who DM'd me of like how to get started, how to find leads, start at a gym because your clientele is right there. They are already motivated to show up and they want to train. Go to where the clients are, and that's going to be in the gym. Start there, stay for a while. Don't just stay for a short term period. Build the relationships, learn what you need to learn, build and grow. Take your time. Again, I feel like that's what's worked best for me. I'm gonna go where the clientele are, and I'm fortunate. Like at my gyms, they'll get leads sent to them, and they'll forward them to us. So that's another source of getting leads. Like I said, majority of my lead source comes from Instagram. So again, I'm being consistent with posting. I do get leads from Google, Yelp even. But again, like I created all those sources. So some people feel like they just try to focus on, okay, I just want to focus on my email list. I have the email list, but that's not my bread and butter. I focus on the other aspects, on the bigger rocks.
No, totally fair. So back to the step count, because I know you've also been posting about step count challenges. So why do you think step count? I certainly believe in it. Why do you think step count's a powerful lever for people?
Because again, I feel like people get so lost in so my metabolism's broken. I don't know why I can't lose any weight. I'm only eating 1,200 calories. So besides all that noise, I'm like, you need to be moving more. You need to be moving more, just period. I feel like we are in a day and age of like we're just on our phones, we're on our computers, we're watching TV, we're sitting down, we're driving for long periods of time, we're just sitting, 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 and we need to move more. And if people have the day, it was like, oh, I have to do 10,000 steps, and again, because they're thinking all or nothing. What I love about my app with StepBet, it prescribes you your own personalized step data based upon your previous 2 weeks of step data. So it's not giving you the arbitrary 10,000 steps. And also, too, I like with the app, it doesn't show you everyone else's step. So that way you don't feel intimidated, like, oh, Ashley's doing, 20,000 steps. Like I'm only doing three. We don't even see that. So it's just a simple community page where like I can make announcements, people can share photos, they can comment on things, but we can see like how many people are still in the challenge. It's a very simple, very user-friendly interface, but like, the whole concept is just to get to people to start moving more, and then they start to see their averages in their health app or the Android device of their steps increasing month by month. And I've been hosting these since 2022, and I just feel like even personally, like it's a good motivation for me just to keep moving more because sometimes we can kind of get to I'll just sit down or but it's just nice. Like, no, like I have the step goal and I'm gonna keep moving. The step will prescribe you with 4 days and then two stretch goals. So usually about like 1,000, 2,000 steps higher than your average step goal.
Okay. A couple quick thoughts, especially if I've got somebody who's intentionally dieting for fat loss. We know that we see a significant down regulations in NEAT. They're just moving around their activity. And it varies by person. There's a genetic component. But I find step count works as a really good proxy to try to keep NEAT higher. And I find the industry's funny. They'll say things like, oh, a large, increases in activity, the metabolism compensates for that, whatever. But then, you'll also see that NEAT calorie expenditure actually has a very big impact on daily calorie expenditure. So these things get confusing. I tend to bias to the latter. It's like if you move more, that you're almost certainly going to burn more calories. You have a lot more latitude within your day to stay within your calorie, in versus calorie out ranges. So
Mhm.
one last thought. You live in a place that has probably the most beautiful weather in the world, right? It's legendary for it. What about the people like who get my kind of winters in northern Canada, or they're just in environments where going about out walking freely all the time simply isn't as accessible as for you? Any thoughts for that?
So I'm actually born and raised from Buffalo, New York. So I am also very familiar with
Ooh.
terrible weather, the winters. And so I get it. And just Buffalo, New York in general is not the best lifestyle to be healthy. So I had to make a lot of changes. But again, you have to think outside the box. So using myself, for example, like we had a stationary bike in the basement. Growing up, like my mom, she follows Suzanne Summers. So and also was it is it Diana? What is her name? Oh my gosh, she's on. Trying to think of her name. It was another fitness woman that I looked up to. I'll have to look it up. But I would find like their little like workout videos on like Billy Blanks, for example. So just to get movement, because if it's a snowstorm, we got 6 feet of snow, like there's no way like I'm going outside. But even for like in the current day, like YouTube has tons of great videos where like you're dancing, you're doing Zumba, you do kickboxing. They have literal like step videos, like get 5,000 steps, and they're just showing you like different movements to get 5,000 steps. There's still ways to get movement in, and get creative. Mall walkers, like that's a classic.
Mm,
Okay, you see those early morning mall, go to a mall inside, get your steps on. Now that's another great outlet.
totally. And I'll catch myself every once in a while going to walk around a ball just for some extra steps. Although in at least when it's nice summer weather, we've had good weather lately. I'm outside more, and I got a Garmin a while ago. And if you're gonna do this shit, I'm not somebody who can have like messages and beeps and dings going off on a phone. This thing is a glorified step counter. That's its entire purpose. So thank you. This has been wonderful. Everybody can get you on Instagram where you're active at a.hodge fitness. By the way, weird side note. I don't think we're related, but on my dad's mom's side, the family surname is Hodge. So yeah,
Stop it. Oh,
yeah,
I never meet a Hodge. Like it's so rare.
yeah. We have Hodges that go back one side. Yep.
Wow. You never
Yeah.
know.
Cool. So yeah, so they can get you again at a.hodge fitness. Anything else you want to send people to?
My website is ashleyhodgefitness.com. That's my
Um,
website. I'm mostly very active on Instagram, so shoot me a follow, DM me. I am always, and if you're in the same area, please don't hesitate to say hi. I always love when people come up to say hi.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I really appreciate you having me on the podcast. I really enjoyed our conversation. And I also appreciate the opportunity to share my experience and to connect with your audience.
Oh, you deserve it.